Hi, I'm Adrian, the subconscious surgeon, and I want to there's a lot of common asked questions about what it is that I do. And the best way to explain it is that we have these deep, emotional, imprinted, kind of subconscious belief systems. Sub means below, conscious means your awareness. So all of these things are simply below your awareness. And subconscious surgery, in essence, the surgery part is I remove these emotional triggers from your system. So in life, we create belief systems. We have an experience. That experience teaches us something. That standing up and speaking is embarrassing because when we were 5, we went to answer a question at school, we got it wrong, everybody teased us, we felt embarrassed, and now we've linked embarrassment with standing up and speaking. So when you're older and you're getting out there in business and things like that, and you need to then stand up and share what you do, you suddenly get all nervous and your heart rate starts going. This is what we call the limbic system. The limbic system is the ancient part of our brain. It's designed to avoid danger. And because we've labelled standing up or speaking as danger, then we have what we call this implicit memory. And implicit memory is an emotional memory. It is, in essence, the feeling we had when we had that first experience, but we don't get the memory recall of the experience. An explicit memory, for example, if I smell grass, freshly mowed grass, it reminds me of school. They used to mow the school fields, and because the school was surrounded by fields, no matter what classroom you were in, when they were mowing the fields, you had these huge tractors, and this smell, this pungent smell of freshly mowed grass, is what we call an anchor. It's like a hyperlink to that memory, and it just immediately reminds me of when I was at school and that feeling and the ambiance and the classrooms and the smell and everything like that. If I smell two-stroke fumes from a motorbike, it reminds me of my teenage years, from when I used to have my two-stroke motorbike, and I used to go everywhere on adventures with me and my friend and have crazy times. If, let's say, when you were 16, you had a crush on somebody and you went and asked them out, and they laughed in your face and embarrassed you in front of your friends, kind of put you down, then you actually might have a remember and think, oh yeah, I'm not going to go and ask them out because I got shut down last time, and this is what happens. We end up settling in relationships because we have got a belief that we cannot reach out and ask for what we want. We can't have this, wonderful and amazing, attractive person that we desire because they shoot us down. It might be in business that we go out there and we get rejected. So we learn that, well, I'm no good. I get rejected in business. And all of these layers of detritus erode our confidence. They erode our, sense of well-being. They erode our ability to see our future with that in it. So what happens is we don't get what we want out of life, we get what we expect. And it's that expectation which, in essence, is the vibrational point of attraction. When we talk about the law of attraction, it's this self-fulfilling prophecy. We have this systemic, ingrained belief system that something will happen. And what our mind does is it looks for evidence of it. It's a bit like Google. When you type into Google, I don't want stress, you get 333 million pages on stress. It doesn't see the I don't want. Yeah, it doesn't go, oh, you don't want that, right. Oh, this will give you joy, and this will give you joy, and this will give you excitement, and this will be a wonderful experience. No, it just looks for, everything that has that key word, stress. So your mind works exactly the same. It looks for evidence of it. So, for example, if you are in a situation where you're always finding you get relationships of a certain type. You know, they're always abusive, they're always argumentative, they're always cheating on you. You know, any kind of repeating pattern, in essence. And if you're honest with yourself, usually when it happens, you kind of look back in hindsight and go, yeah, I knew they were going to do that. I knew that was going to happen. I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew I should have done this. Yeah? And what you're doing there, in essence, is observing your intuition in hindsight, but also observing your self-sabotage. The self-sabotage is you ignoring that intuition. You giving people the benefit of the doubt. And this is you not trusting life, not trusting yourself, not trusting the flow. But this is what we call in psychology confirmation bias. You want to prove your beliefs by finding evidence of them and then experiencing them so it reinforces that belief. Yeah? And we do this with our language. You know, oh, I always do that. You know, when we talk about our experience, you know, oh, I'm always doing this, I'm always attracting that, I'm always having this problem, I'm always procrastinating. And actually you're affirming in that moment, that's who you are. And if you treat your mind like this proverbial genie, you know, with Aladdin and the lamp, and he goes, your wish is my command. And that's what your subconscious mind does. Whatever you say, abracadabra, I create as I speak, or I create what I speak. That's the translation for abracadabra. You know, we always see abracadabra as this magic, this incantation. I am magicking something into existence. And it's through language. So subconscious surgery, in essence, is finding the language of those belief systems. Language has power. When we write it out, we call it spelling. When we write out a statement that has meaning and we use it in ceremony, we call it magic or a magic spell. So every word you say out loud or say in your head, in essence, is magic. Just having some of my decaf coffee. Microdosing on caffeine. So, subconscious surgery finds the language that's sustained and kind of attached in your body. We have what we call psychosomatic. Psycho is the mind, soma is the body. So it's how your mind affects your body, right? And when we talk about psychosomatic, we normally talk about it with an illness. And if you understand that illness is just a physical expression of a belief system. This is some of Deepak Chopra's work. You know, as a medical practitioner, he found that about 80 to 90% of disease and physical ailments is originated from an emotional belief system. So the way to picture it is you're a kind of a field of energy, right? If we get rid of biology for a moment, right? And understand when we look at science and atomics and quantum mechanics, yeah? The atomics is the pixels that we're made of, these little tiny particles of matter, yeah? But when we talk about matter, we talk about a physical thing, but as an atom, it's not really matter per se. You know, it is this fuzzy ball of energy. Yeah, and in this fuzzy ball of energy, we've got this shell, which is the electron shell, and we have these electrons, which, you know, in the old school model is orbiting like the planet around the sun, but it's not actually like that. It's what we call in superposition. We don't know where the electron is until we measure it and look for it. Yeah, and it could be anywhere. Yeah, it's more like this. It's like more like the snow on the TV set, you know, the old TV sets when you turn it off and you get that shh and the black and white dots, which is like chaos, right? They're just random, right? Which is a bit like the electron and the thing. And then in the middle, we've got this nucleus with the protons and neutrons. And when we get a proton and we smash it apart, this is what the Hadron Collider does, we get these 12 base particles flying out, bosons and leptons and photons and all these kind of other things, which are these particles that make up that. Yeah, the Hadron Collider is just literally the world's biggest digital camera. Yeah. So when we look at what we're made of, it just gets more and more detailed the closer we look. And we're just energy. So this field of energy stores information. Okay? And every single different part of your body has different language attached to it. A lot of it's quite intuitive. Your shoulders are about bearing burdens. We've all heard the phrase, God, you look like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders. Yeah? So your shoulders are about bearing burdens. How we carry things. We carry things on our shoulders. Our right one is financial. Our left one is family. Our liver is the anger center. Our knees are about being flexible in life. Our feet are about being planted and going in the right direction. Yeah? Our throat is about speaking our truth. Our ears are about hearing things. If we have problems with our ears, sometimes there's things we just don't want to hear. Our eyes are about seeing things. So all of this energy is stored within your field, and it starts off as a belief, as an energy, as a resonance. And over time, if that's left unchecked, the body starts to create a physical expression, which is its way of attempting to communicate to you what the problem is. Yeah? And every single different part of your body has got different language attached to it. So what I do is I use a testing process, and I can scan the body and find out where this language is attached. And this language then gives me a description of the psychology and the belief system which is in your subconscious, which is below your awareness, which is this mechanism that's controlling 95% of your life. And it does it through emotions. So when you're in a certain situation, and even if it's just in business, making a telephone call to a client, yeah? If you have this fear that the client is going to say no, in essence, there's two mechanisms here. One, this kind of ethereal concept that you're sending this energy out into the universe. This other person subconsciously feels that, and that affects their belief, because if you're not confident, why should they be confident? Yeah? Now the other one, which is kind of a little bit more tangible and believable, which, I'm not saying the other one's not true. I actually have seen evidence of it in many different ways, which I've described in other videos, and I'll be doing in more. And I'm doing a documentary series about it to scientifically investigate this. But, the other part is just simple psychology. If you don't appear confident when you ring your clients up and you're like, well, are you interested? And, in sales, there's the what we call the assumption close. So, when do you want to start? You're not asking them if they want it, you're assuming they want it, and you're asking them when they want to start. It's a totally different energy. But if you're not confident, then that confidence will show in your voice and intonation and mannerisms and, body language and all this kind of stuff, which is what then erodes other people's confidence. If you're not confident, why should I be? Yeah? So, turning up and being people buy from people. And that's whether it's to do with business, that's whether it's to do with relationships. Confidence is sexy. And if you're just simply not confident, then again, that will affect your ability to gain connection with other people. So all these implicit memories, I scan the body and I can literally ask your body questions. If you look, I'll post another video in a bit. Go on my YouTube channel. I've got various videos where I show in workshops my ability to sense other people's emotions. We call it clairsentient. I sense things. Yeah, it's a form of empathy. Yeah, we feel for somebody, but we call it being empathic. Yeah, this ability to feel other people's emotions. In some ways, this is Rupert Sheldrake's telephone telepathy test. He wrote this book called Morphic Resonance, and it kind of taps into the science of this. And there's this field of energy which we've measured. You know, there's all sorts of experiments that have actually verified this as a real phenomena. And when he interviewed people and went out and kind of did a survey and asked, have you ever had the experience of kind of just thinking about somebody, or somebody, you know, suddenly popping into your thoughts and then they text or ring you? Yeah. And I've actually done experiments with this throughout my life. You know, this has been a real live feeling and experience, you know, since as early as I can remember. One of my kind of early experiences was when I was 16 years old. I'd just broken up with a girlfriend, and as a teenager, right, that was the end of the world. You know, I was heartbroken. I was lying on my bed crying my eyes out. Oh, I'll never love again. You know, and a friend of mine that I was very close to at school, this lady called Sandra, we had a very close friendship, and I hadn't spoken to her for probably nearly a year, and randomly she rang me up, and I was like, yeah, hello, and she was like, look, you know, you might think I'm weird, or, you know, but I just got this image of you lying on your bed crying, and I just felt you were really upset, and I needed to ring you to find out if you were all right. You know, and as I grew up, you know, I actually played around with this phenomena. You know, one example is I met a woman on a dating site, and we were initially messaging each other, and I did an experiment. We hadn't actually physically spoken at that point, and what I'd do is I would write out a text message to her, and after I finished writing it, I would pause for a minute, and I would think of her, and I would feel her, and I would send her this message inside my mind as such. And then, you know, 30 seconds, a minute of doing that, I'd then press send. And I did that for about a week. And she eventually asked, you know, can we talk on the phone? And so we spoke for the first time. And when we spoke for the first time, she was going, look, you know, I kind of wanted to ring you because I wanted to talk to you about a weird kind of experience that I've been having for the last, like, week. And, you know, it's like, I get this weird tingling in my body, I get this weird feeling, and I think of you, and I think, you know, oh, I've got a text message, and I pick up my phone and look at it, and there's nothing there, and then I put it down, and 30 seconds to a minute later, my phone pings, and I look, and I've got a text message, and it's been doing it every time for the last week. You might think I'm really crazy in thinking that, and then I told her, in essence, what I'd been doing. And it freaked her out a bit, actually. And actually, our connection dwindled quite quickly after that for some reason. But anyway, you know, these things happen. I mean, it is a bit of a freaky concept for people. Yeah, and this, you know, experiment that Rupert Sheldrake did proved this was a real phenomenon. So this ability of mine, in essence, is what we call a form of remote viewing. I place my consciousness within your field of energy. Our bodies know no separation. You know, as a spiritual concept, that we're all one. And if we're all one, then I am you, you are me. We're experiencing each other with the illusion of separation. Our bodies are fully connected. It's the mind that's the dysfunctional interface. So when I say something in my mind as if I am you, my body reacts as if it's yours. And I use a form of kinesiology, muscle testing, to be able to tap into what we call the parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight response. And when you state something which is incongruent to your core beliefs, it trips you into this sympathetic nervous system. You're in sympathy with it, and you react. And that's the limbic system shunting, and it causes all sorts of physiological responses in the body that we can feel and sense. Yeah? And I can then literally in my workshops, I will, you know, whisper the answer in someone's ear, and I'll bring someone up and I'll do the muscle testing. In essence, the muscle testing is showing me their physical reaction, and 100% of the time, what I've whispered in someone's ear or what I've written down is exactly the answer that they muscle test. And, you know, 99% of the time they turn around and go, actually, yeah, that is my love language, or yeah, that's exactly where I'm earning at the moment. And they verify the muscle testing, which verifies my feedback. And again, you know, distance is the illusion. So I can do this no matter where I am on the planet. I often tell, you know, I've talked about this in my other videos, I often tell people things about themselves that happen in their youth that they have no conscious recollection of, yet when they go and ask their parents turn around and say verbatim what I said. So this is kind of this process that I use. So in essence, a subconscious surgery session is we identify what we need to work on, what belief system, what trigger, you know, what pattern, what emotion. I then spend 10 or 15, sometimes maybe even 20 minutes in silence, and I'm going through my deductive process. I'm scanning the body, finding the part of the body that's related, going through the language, finding which language is linked to it, making a body of language. And then I might come back and say, right, so what happened, you know, can you remember what happened when you were 3 years old, you know, with your father, or 10-year-old at school to do with this, or what happened when you were 16 to do with boyfriends, that kind of stuff. What happened when you were 22, you know, with a business partner, yeah? And then usually, you know, 90% of the time, people get a physical recall. They'll go, oh God, yeah, that's when I first went into business, and I started business with this guy, and oh, he screwed me over, right? And now you're wondering why that you find it difficult to trust people in business. And you go, oh God, that makes sense. So that's the logic layer, right? You suddenly, when you're reminded of this event, and then you realize how that event affected your level of consciousness and your beliefs and expectations, you get that logical layer. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I get it now. I understand why I've got this pattern. But that doesn't give you a healing. It kind of gives you this sense of understanding, and to a degree some kind of shift of consciousness to be aware of a pattern, but it doesn't eliminate it from your system. There's several other layers. So the other layer is the neurochemical limbic system response, this emotional trigger that we feel, yeah? So we need to remove that. This is in essence what I call the surgery. So the surgery is I create a processing statement which is a description of the pain. And all of my clients, when I write this statement out, you know, they're like, whoa, you know, they kind of feel it. You know, it's like, you know, a common feedback I get, literally, you know, very, you know, I'd say what, 70-80% of the time, they turn around and go, I've kind of felt like this all my life, and I've never been able to put it into words, but I could have written that statement. That describes it perfectly, you know. And it's kind of stimulating that belief. It's like a self-admission in many ways. It's a self-admission that you've been wanting to do, but your ego and, you know, it's subconscious. It's been below your awareness. You've caught glimpses of it, but you've kind of not wanted to, you know, tackle it head on. And this is a way of tackling it head on. It's sometimes quite brutal in a way, but in a gentle way as well. So what we do then is we then process that out. The way we process that out is by this, what we call a pattern interrupt, right? We use certain meridians, I use certain sound frequencies. Pythagoras was one of the first scientists that explored how certain vibrations of sound had a healing effect on the body. And we call it Pythagorean tuning, or Pythagorean scale. And it's all 8 Hertz harmonics. In sound healing, we use 432 Hertz as A, which is the 54th harmonic of 8 Hertz. Yeah? So everything is on the 8 Hertz harmonic scale. They say the seat of consciousness is 8 Hertz in the body. You know, this school is about the Ashta project. Ashta is Sanskrit for 8. 8 is a very interesting number, which or structure that comes up everywhere. The only reason why we are able to communicate with technology is because of 8-bit technology. And this is because of the silica dioxide, or the silicon wafer that's in your phone, stores things in 8 Hertz harmonics, because it's, you know, stores it in 8 bits. Yeah? So this is why your memory cards are 8 megabyte, 16 megabyte, or 8 gig, 16 gig, 32 gig, 64 gig, 128, 256, 512. They're all 8 hertz harmonics. Yeah? The Schumann resonance, the resonance of the planet, is round about 8 hertz. It's actually 7.83 or 84 at the moment. And so, anyway, I could go on forever, but so what we need to do is literally get that resonant frequency out of your body. Yeah. So I use Pythagorean sound frequencies, and there are certain scales of frequencies that relate with the chakras. Yeah. And let's say you have a fear of public speaking. It might be your throat chakra that's blocked, and your third chakra, you know, your strength and courage. Yeah. If you're in a place in life where you've got indecision, you don't know what to do, one of my clients I worked with last night, he was in a place of analysis paralysis. He was wanting to set up his own business, but he doesn't know what to call it, how to set things up, which direction to go in. And he actually gave me the name of his company that I wanted to set up, and I was kind of muscle testing on a score of 1 to 10 of that, how the energy behind that name and how the name will contribute to the success of the business. This is another thing that I do. It's what we call 5D consulting. I can ask the universe, I can ask Source, what the outcome energetically of any particular decision. And it was scoring an 8 out of 10, which is pretty good, but there must be a 10 out of 10 somewhere. And the way he'd structured it caused a bit of ambiguity about what he did. And when I restructured it and got the words and mixed them up in a different way, it actually scored a 10. And when I told him that, he was like, oh yeah, I came up with that one first, but then I kind of talked myself out of it. And that was a perfect example of the analysis paralysis, the overthinking, and the self-sabotage. Yeah? He'd actually intuitively come up with the right name first, and then with this overanalysis, come up with a name that was not as good. Yeah? And his intuition knew it. But he then ignored it and went with something else. So this is how self-sabotage works. And then in hindsight, we look back and we go, oh, I knew, yeah. And we got that moment, which identified the belief that we had to deal with, and we had to process that out. And that was just causing, eroding his confidence. And what it was is his future self. He had this, a lot of belief systems are set in hindsight as such, but they're placed in foresight at the moment. So his belief system was that he was worried. The fear that he had was that he'd just come out of a corporate world, which he was very successful, managing directors of companies, great positions, great success, and he was going out on his own, and his fear was that in a year's time, 2 years' time, 5 years' time, or whatever, that he just wouldn't have achieved even the same level of success. Never mind more, the whole idea of going out on your own is when you work for somebody, you're paid a fifth of what you're worth because the company's got to profit from you. If you go out on your own, potentially you could earn 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 times what you're worth to a company. Yeah? And his fear was that he never reaches that, and he's gone out and he's told everybody that he's starting his own business, and everybody's looking at him and they're going to judge him when he doesn't achieve that success. And it's that, fear of judgment which was causing the analysis paralysis, which was causing him to make decisions that would prove him right. That wouldn't lead to his success. Yeah? Does that make sense? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's what we call in psychology confirmation bias. We end up making the decisions that prove us right. So we can get there and go, I told you. Yeah? And that's not ultimately what we want, but it's what we expect. And we don't get what we want out of life, we get what we expect because our expectation drives our decisions, it drives this energy behind it, it drives other people's responses to us, and this is, in the law of attraction, our vibrational point of attraction. So this is what we need to recode, and this is what we need to reprogram, and this is what I do with subconscious surgery. I change your emotional relationship with the subject matter, which instantaneously changes your approach, it changes your confidence, it changes your expectations, it changes your beliefs, which changes your reality. Now, there's many layers to our structure, and to get a real big shift, it is just lots of little small incremental adjustments. So this is why I developed the Power of 8. Out of working with hundreds and hundreds of clients, and many incredibly successful entrepreneurs, and some which, when I met them, they were at one of their lowest points, and several years later they're now running multi-million companies. It is establishing and getting rid of ourselves out of the way. As Jack Canfield, one of his success principles in the book, The Success Principles, is release the brakes. And the analogy that he uses is that everybody's driving around with their emergency handbrake on. Yeah? And a lot of self-development these days, I don't agree with, right? Because they were like, push harder, work harder, tenacity, keep going, it's aggression, work 15, 20 hours a day if you have to. And really what you're doing is you're pushing the accelerator harder, yeah? You're stressing the engine, you're stressing the chassis, you're stressing your brakes, yeah? And if you don't release the brake and you just keep pushing the gas, something breaks, something burns out. It's usually us, yeah? And that sets us back even further, because we can't sustain that level of energy. And if we just actually take the handbrake off, suddenly we're accelerating forward at this exponential rate with actually using less energy. You're not working as hard. Everything's in flow. Yeah? So the analysis paralysis is usually the second chakra, the flow of life, and quite often linked to the crown chakra, where we get inspiration, where we get downloads, where we get the intuitive kind of, oh, yeah, it could be the third eye. Perceiving your future, being able to visualize it. If you've got a blockage in that, this is the old, what man can conceive and believe he can achieve. But if you can't conceive and believe in it, you're never going to achieve it. Because this is where a lot of procrastination comes from. If you are not fully in alignment, or if your belief system is not congruent with achieving that level of success, if you, like with the muscle testing, and this is the training program I'm about to launch, is teaching you the muscle testing process, with something that's absolutely terraformed my life completely. And it's a way of tapping into your body's inner knowing, bypassing the ego function, and getting, a good stimulating feedback system which can bypass this self-sabotage mechanism. Yeah, which is, the bit I do for clients, but if you can learn to do it yourself, then, you'll be self-sustainable. And if you, let's say, test your goals, right, my goal is to earn 100,000 this year, yeah, or 50,000, or $250,000, whatever your target is, right? And you can test on a score of 1 to 10, what is my belief system? And 10 is, absolutely, I'm going to do this effortless and easy, no problems at all, I'm going to smash it out of the park, and, I'm going to do 10 times that, yeah? 1 is, no chance on this earth, I'm not even going to move forward from where I am now. In fact, I'm just going to get worse and worse and worse, because my relationship with money is so dysfunctional, right? I'm just going to make loads of bad mistakes and fuck-ups, right? And let's say you test a 5, right? Well, that means half of the time, and you'll be reflected in your emotions, half of the time you'll be like, yeah, I can do this, pumped, I'm ready. And half of the time you're like, oh, this is too much, I can't do it, I'm never going to make it. Yeah? And you've got this kind of tug of war, this battle between the two emotions. And you're up and down like a yo-yo. Things will go well and you're like, yes, and then something will happen and you'll be like, oh no, right? So again, it's always reflected. If you test a 7 out of 10, 70% of the time, you'll be confident. 30% of the time, you'll be eroded, yeah? And the problem is when you take the 30 off the 70, it means you're only getting 40% traction, yeah? You're only moving forward 40% as quick as you could do if you took that break away and released that resistance, yeah? So being able to measure that and see how congruent you are identifies, right, so we've got a belief system that's eroding your confidence by 30%. What is it? How do we identify it? How do we release it? And that's what subconscious surgery does, right? We backwards engineer what is the psychosomatic, the psychological accounting, this deep emotional subconscious belief system that is pulling this emergency handbrake on. And then as we release that trigger, we're releasing the resistance, which will allow you to move forward with less effort and ease. Yeah? And you get to that point where you're just in flow and things are happening and it's natural and intuitive and easy. So that's what I call the surgery. Now, if you went for a surgery and, you know, let's say you broke your leg and you went for surgery and you had it reset and, you know, pinned or whatever, eventually you'll probably need painkillers, so you'll be prescribed some painkillers. Eventually you'll be, you know, given some physiotherapy and given exercises that you need to do to strengthen it. So the same with subconscious surgery. My prescription that I give you to use after on a daily basis, you know, Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an act, but a habit. So I give you the new habits, the new special techniques and processes, which will rehabilitate that particular belief structure. Yeah, because the subconscious surgery sets it back to baseline. Yeah, so when you were 5, you've got this belief. So that belief's been there for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever, how long it has been since that was installed. This antivirus removes that bug out of your system, but now we need to reinstall some new software. We need to rehabilitate and strengthen that belief structure and create a belief structure which is congruent for achieving that goal. So that's what we do. I give you these special techniques, affirmations and things like that that are designed specifically for your needs, for the very specific belief system we've been working on, right? Now, as I said, there's many layers. So often I'll be working with people over, you know, a couple of sessions up to, I mean, I've had clients which have booked 30 sessions off me over the space of 18 months. And these are usually, you know, entrepreneurs, very successful, but they've plateaued. They've got to a place where no matter what they do, they can't seem to get any further. And it's just, again, this belief system. You know, one of my other videos I talked about Jack Canfield's one, which is, you know, it was his mentor that taught me the foundation of the system which I now call subconscious surgery. And Jack Canfield had plateaued for 10 years at just below 2 million a year because he had a belief system his father would reject him if he was earning more. Yeah, just go back in my old videos, you'll, you know, have a look at that, the full description and the story behind it. So once we get past these things, we will find, and you will find, that your life just gets easier and the results come quicker. The prescription, I then test how long it will be until the next session, yeah, depending on the power and energy of that session. If it's a particularly light session, because maybe there's 1 or 2 beliefs which are all pointing in the same direction to, you know, unlock this big block, then it might be right, it's 5 days to your next session, and then we do another one, and yeah, it's another 5 days to your next session, and boom, it really gets rid of this huge release, and right, it's 3 weeks to your next session now, yeah? So when you kind of work with me, in our consultation, what you'll do is you'll give me that download. You'll say, right, yeah, you know, I've got things with my relationships, this is where I'm in business, this is where I have confidence, if I ever do this, you know, I feel triggered, you know, my family, my parents, blah, 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 blah. You give me the download. What's going on? What's happening in your life? What is it that you want to shift? I can then take that and just ask the universe. The universe knows everything. If you look at the holofractal universe, every single possible event is happening in every single possible moment in time, right? And we can test it. We can ask it, right? So for me to achieve this goal, how many hours of work do I need to work with this person to clear all of what he's said here or she has said here, right? And it might tell me 5 sessions, 5 hours work in essence. It might tell me 20 hours work. And what I do then is I create you a bespoke program just for you, yeah? So that bespoke program just for you basically is, right, for what you've said here, this emotional trigger, this belief system, this pattern, this feeling, this confidence, I will clear all of this, and it'll take me 4 hours, 10 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours, whatever that figure might be, right? And that will be spread out over 2 months, 5 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever that figure might be. And what I do is, because I want to get rid of the resistance of taking that plunge and making that investment. So I take out the risk. What I say to you is that after the 2 months, 6 months, whatever, the 4 hours, 10 hours of work, what I'm guaranteeing is that your experience with all of these topics will be completely transformed. You will feel different, and you will be seeing the evidence in your life. Yeah? Each session is going to give you an incremental shift. But the idea is when we have completed the course, in hindsight, you'll look back and go, wow, it's been amazing, right? And you'll be, going on my Facebook, or sending me this testimonial going, oh my God, this guy is magical, he's a genius, he's amazing, he's changed my life completely. It's mind-blowing what he did, right? That's, in essence, the goal that I want to achieve for you. And if I don't help you achieve that goal, I'll either refund that money, give you a partial refund, or anything like that. Yeah? But you have got to be in it to win it. And one of the biggest hurdles in all self-development is making that choice, is taking that plunge, is taking that risk. Yeah? Okay, I will invest, it's a reasonable investment. I have, in the grand scheme of things, you might look at me compared to others at my hourly rate and think, well, that's quite expensive. But actually, these are the people. I had clients which have worked and done CBT, they've done hypnotherapy, they've done all these other, modalities, and they've spent thousands of dollars and not actually achieved anything. Yeah? What I'm guaranteeing is you will achieve it, or I'll give you your money back. So in essence, what you're going to ask yourself is, right, to achieve this, is it worth investing this time, effort, and money? And if you haven't achieved it before, and I'm going to guarantee you achieve it, then what is there to lose? There is nothing to lose, apart from maybe a little bit of time. Yeah? But it's incredibly rare that we get to that situation, and the odd occasion that I have has been usually when people just haven't engaged in the process. They've self-sabotaged themselves before they've even got there. There is a process to do. If I say it's going to take 3 sessions to achieve the goal, you have 1 session, don't do the homework, and turn around and say, well, it hasn't worked for me. It's all, well, it hasn't worked for you. Yeah? Because you haven't done what it needed to do to get there. So it's bound not to work. Yeah? And that's the thing. You've got to be actually proactive in your own healing. If you don't engage with the process, if you don't do the homework, if you don't turn up on time, all you're doing is procrastinating, you're self-sabotaging. I don't work well with people like that, because it's just excuses. It's just literally you're not doing what's needed to get the result. Yeah, I can open the door, I can tell you what you need to do, but if you're not willing to walk through the door and do it, then you're not going to achieve it. Yeah, it's the old proverbial leading the horse to water. You can't make it drink. The only thing you can do is drown it. Yeah. So I can test and give you that guarantee, but you have got to engage with it. Yeah. And your psychological accounting will toy with you and mess around with you and procrastinate. And I get clients which come back 6 months later and they were so enthused at the time, and then they talked themselves out of it, and then we eventually did it, and they're like, oh, I wish I'd done this a year ago. I can't believe that I procrastinated. Yeah. But this is just self-sabotage. It's just part of the journey. Yeah. I am sure you've probably bought books, bought courses, committed to doing things, and then put them off and put them off and put them off. And this is how the subconscious mind works, the ego mind works. It doesn't want to grow. It wants to stay where it is. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. I know this pain. I know this drudge. I know this lifestyle. And although I don't like it, I'm scared of doing all this work and it not working. I'm scared of doing all this work and it working. Yeah? Actually, one of the biggest fears that I find in a lot of entrepreneurs is not the fear of failure. It's actually the fear of success. It's the fear of responsibility, of having all that money, of being in the spotlight, of having people judge you. It's not always about failure. That's one of the crazy things, and this is one of the big, misnomers that's taught in the self-development. Oh, it's the fear of failure that's holding you back. Actually, no, it's the fear of success. It's the fear of having that nice car and everybody thinking you're an idiot. Yeah? Oh, look at that flash kit. Why? Because you're mixing around in circles with people that haven't got a good relationship with success or abundance. They judge you. Yeah? Because they don't have any beliefs that they can achieve it, so they want to put people down that's got it. And if you hang around with people like that, this is what we call the crab syndrome. You've ever heard of that? If you put a load of crabs in the bucket, right, and one tries to escape, one crab's like, hang on a minute, where are you going? You're not escaping, I want to escape. And he'll grab that down. I'm going to escape. And the other one goes, no, you're not escaping, you're going to, I'm pulling that down. And then we'll pull that down, and no crab will escape. Put one in the bucket, it'll get out dead easy. Yeah? We call it the crab syndrome. And that's what happens in life. There's another phrase, you become the amalgamation of the top 5 people that you spend the most time with. Yeah? And they say if you spend time with 5 rich people, you'll be the 6th. If you spend time with 5 confident people, you'll be the 6th. If you spend time with 5 insecure people, you'll be the 6th. If you spend time with 5 poor people, you will be the 6th. So it's the power of association. So it's associating yourself, and this is why reading books from successful people. Yeah? You've got to engage in that vibration, that level of consciousness, which will help you achieve that goal. And what I can do is identify all the resistances, everything that's putting that emergency handbrake on and preventing you from really helping achieve that confidence, that success, the relationships, friendships, all these different aspects of your life, which up until now you haven't been able to achieve for some reason. Yeah, because the subconscious has been holding you back. And it was Einstein that said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And what I do is very different. But as you can see from all my testimonials, it gets amazing results. So that's in essence, subconscious surgery in a nutshell. Maybe quite a long, protracted nutshell, but I wanted to kind of give you a real essence and answer some of the questions that I'm commonly asked in consultations. That way, if you feel inspired, and if I've said anything that resonates with you and you think, yeah, I've got this and I've got that and I want this and I've got that and I'm trying to shift this and trying to shift that and I haven't got it anywhere, well, have a consultation. I will tell you exactly what I'm able to do, and if I say I'm going to do this and it's going to cost that, you will get that or your money back. Simple as that.